Hey everyone, happy Tuesday. Today I'm going to talk about a little something I've been avoiding. So there's a pose. It's kind of a surprising pose. If you had told me 10 years ago that this would become my nemesis pose, I would have said that's crazy. But there's a pose that I'm kind of struggling with, and I have had it shoved off to the side for a long time now, and I've recently committed to tackling that pose. So the pose is Urdhva Dhanurasana, upward bow pose, big back bend, deep back bend. And the reason why it's kind of shocking is because when I started yoga, I was the back bend girl. I am naturally more on the flexible side, and my spine could just back bend. It was never challenging for me. I think when I began, once I was strong enough to balance in forearm stand, I then began to tackle scorpion, where it becomes a deep back bend and your feet come down, to come towards your head. And it didn't take me long. Once again, I had the strength and the balance. I could come into the back bend, but there was probably like a foot or so of space between my feet and my head. And with just a few months of kind of daily practice, bam, my feet came down and touched my head. So I just had that body that could back bend. So what happened? Well, it really all changed a bit with the birth of my first daughter, but especially my second daughter. So I can remember with my first daughter, who's now 11, it wasn't really the pregnancy, it was afterwards. It was the breastfeeding and sitting like this. And I can remember my upper back being so stiff. I would lay over a couch, like the armchair of the couch. And it was just so intense. I'd take my arms overhead and just breathe. And pretty soon after that, things opened back up. But it was really with the birth of my second daughter that my back became super stiff. And once again, at the physical level, there's a lot of this going on, right? So you're holding, you're rounding, your shoulder blades are widening, and you're just tight in your upper back. So really, on the daily, you should be opening that back up. Any of us, whether it's from holding a baby or sitting at a computer or driving, anything that rounds us forward, we should be countering that every single day. Well, I wasn't, because very sadly, my mom had just passed away, and I was just sad and depleted and tired, and I ended up not really sleeping for a year and a half. My second daughter was very difficult with sleep, and I just became so depleted that my practice was much more on the forward bend side of things. And so I became really, really tight in my upper back. And actually there's one point, and I have a theory that it's not just physical, that it's also emotional. There's this one spot in my thoracic spine that feels like it just is caught. And I think it's like an energetic caught. Because with the birth of my second child, my mom passed away right before I gave birth, and I didn't really have time, I think, to fully grieve. So I have this theory that it's all locked up in there. And so for a long time, I just couldn't manage to get in there. I didn't have the strength, the emotional capacity, the drive to go into those super deep back bends. Still done lots of other back bends, but that's become my nemesis pose. So when the time is right, the time is right. And about a month or so ago, maybe a little more, I decided it's time. I'm really ready to crack that back open. So I've been doing my back bends every day, a series of stretches using props and some other things to help me open up. And I feel it coming back. I'm starting to feel, it's not there yet, but I'm starting to feel that freedom. So I have a couple of theories too about some other work I need to do that isn't related to actual yoga poses or, stretching or pranayama or backbending. And I'm going to do a follow-up video at the end of the summer and kind of check in and tell you what I've discovered. But in the meantime, I'm committed to those back bends and to rediscovering that sense of freedom in my spine. So I'm wondering if there's a pose that's your nemesis pose that you've been avoiding, and if maybe it isn't time for you to kind of face the music. We all have those places in our body. When I first began yoga, it was my hips, and I would avoid the hip opening poses because those were so hard for me. But at some point we realized that we're actually just causing ourselves more harm than good by avoiding those areas we need to go into. So I'm going to encourage you to do a little bit of, self-examination, introspection, and maybe consider tailoring your practice now to those parts of your body that are calling for your attention. Namaste. Thank you.